Bien, merci.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being present here for this new workshop all about tyres. So we're going to continue our cycle of conferences. We got it underway yesterday and we'll finish with the cycle tomorrow afternoon. We have many questions, many themes that we're dealing with. Yesterday we talked about retreading, recycling, or the surveillance of tyres. This morning we had a roundtable talking about digital issues, and this afternoon we're continuing and we're talking about jobs in the tyre sector. This is a crucial question, very important, particularly for the future of our sector. The main issue from a jobs perspective in the tyre universe is the fact that we lack qualified labour. This has been the case for the last 10 years. The networks have all been working with fewer staff than they need, and there are some companies that even have a situation whereby they know that they need to play around with skills. They need to get everybody to do a bit more work than they should do naturally, because there's a lack of skilled labour in the sector. Also, all of us tend to have an individual approach to the issue, coming up with the odd initiative here and there, whereas what we need is a main solution. And nowadays, certain working groups have come together, certain syndicates are trying to find a solution, and we've now reached a situation whereby we have made a certain amount of headway, tangible headway, in order to solve this problem where we don't have the right people for the right jobs. So, to provide us with an update on the subject, we'll talk first of all on the SPP's work. This is the Syndicate for Tyre Professionals. We'll have a look at what the current situation is, and given the fact that the best example is the one that comes from the field, we'll give you the opportunity to listen to the testimonial from Aurélie, who's worried sick, but I'm sure, Aurélie, you'll be able to relax once you start to speak. Aurélie is a young person who adores her job, who's very committed to increase the outreach of the type of job that she does. So without further ado, let me introduce our three speakers, who I thank for being here with us this afternoon. I'm sure you all know Delphine, who is a social lawyer within the SPP. We also have Aurélie Roquin, who works for Azure Pneu, and Christophe Karp, who's in charge of training from Point S. So thank you very much to all three of you. As I said in my introduction, this is a theme that really is important today, and there isn't one network that could say the opposite. I think all the networks that we're familiar with suffer at a given moment in time from not being able to recruit the staff that they need. Delphine, some people know you, no doubt, because you write some wonderful articles in our magazines, and you're also a lawyer, but you're also very involved when it comes to this theme. So, to get the debate going, Delphine, can you give us an update on the sector? We all say that things aren't too good from the job perspective, but can you explain the extent to which it's problematic? Thank you very much. Thank you for casting a spotlight on me. Yes, for the last 6 years, I've been in charge of reconciling all the needs in terms of training and recruitment in our sector. Things are not looking too good. We have over 1,000 jobs available every year within all of the networks. This is an ongoing situation. It's lasted for quite some time. If we talk about job turnover and the age pyramid, that is, of course, complexifying things further. And if this continues in the future, we might have 2,000 jobs, 3,000 jobs available in the near future, and we need to find people to fill these positions. And this is why we've implemented a certain number of actions. We'll be talking about this, but in addition to this figure of 1,000 people, jobs that we can't fill, we're not sure whether it's that precise either, because you all do jobs whereby you need many different skills. Very often you work for people who don't have a specific list of what their needs are, so it's complicated for the SPP, the syndicate, and also for the people involved to know what the clear picture is. Yes, it's very difficult to know exactly what staff people need. We're not necessarily talking about very small companies only and medium-sized companies. Globally speaking, we're told that there are about 1,000 people missing. So when I'm in board meetings with CEOs or general managers, people tell me we need to hire staff. But it's very difficult to get hold of the tangible grassroots figures. It's hard to know how many people are needed in each company. So what we simply try to do at our level is to promote the different professions, to talk about them, to create the training courses, but then the companies don't necessarily partner with us in the way we need them to. How did this situation come about? Well, basically, our members are all nose to the grindstone. They're working very hard, focusing on business. And when it comes to managing staff, recruitment, managing people's skill sets, that, generally speaking, is not their main prerogative. And when they're not like Christophe or Reynald from Profil Plus, who are in charge of recruitment and training and who want to use the different tools and systems that we make available, well, they find it very difficult to recruit. They say that they need a new member of staff and that they needed the person as of yesterday. So we come up with tools and solutions that should enable us to solve the problem. And it's not that the people lack ambition, it's just they haven't got time to manage this issue that is particularly difficult. Yes, you know, the tyres are there, they're sitting in the plant and you need people to fit the tyres. That's what I try and tell them. I say their business is going to suffer if they don't manage to recruit the people they need. And sometimes before you're able to recruit the people, you have to train them. Some people have signed contracts with young people that have gone wrong. The person has left because they weren't the right person for the training or the job. Some people are a bit more stubborn and say, I'm going to keep on hiring people and training. It's not necessarily the best approach. You need to step back a bit, and that's what we've done. But we need even more hindsight. We need more explanations from our members as to what their needs are. We can't open certain classes to teach what people need to learn because we don't know what teaching they need. Christophe, you're a representative of the network. As already says, you have a great deal of experience in the field. At Wise, you have needs as well. You're not going to say the contrary. No, I'm not. I'm not going to say the contrary. What's interesting is, to round off what Delphine has just been saying, for a certain number of years, unfortunately, in our industrial sector, people don't receive what we call initial training as they used to. So ours is a business sector where people aren't receiving the same amount of training as they were previously because the local authorities don't necessarily set up the classes to provide young trainees with the training they need. And so the companies in our network, they find themselves in a situation whereby they have to hire older people, sometimes stealing them from competitors, in order to be able to fill in the gaps where they haven't got the people they need in their workshops. And this is basically why 4 or 5 years ago, the Training Commission in France at the Syndical Chamber, well, a group of us got together and we worked with other networks. We sat around the table and we decided to focus on this fundamental problem because there is a real fundamental business problem. Yes, it's important to talk about this. What you're able to offer, thanks to this commission, is true added value. Now, most of you have sat around the table. Not everybody's represented, unfortunately, but there's already quite a big group of you who agree on what the needs are. Yes, it's at least one step forward. There are 4 networks around the table, but 3 networks around the table. Initially speaking, there were 4 of them. But these networks that we represent, even if, well, as I said, we don't represent all of the network, we're talking about over 10,000 jobs that are out there. There are 12,000 members of staff who work in the tyre sector for lightweight vehicles and industrial vehicles. Delphine and also Christophe, please tell me, what about the work that you've been doing, tangibly speaking? What are the subjects that you work on specifically and that you talk about? Well, we say that there's a lack of initial training. There are what we call professional qualification contracts that we can make available. People can train on the job over a 12-month period. But what we want to do is make sure that we can open up other possibilities for training. We want to give people the opportunity to train so that they go through apprenticeships and learn how to manage the hands-on side of the job. Initially speaking, we just wanted to promote different professions. We know the GARAC very well. This is the branch training organization, and nobody ever talks about tyres, particularly in the heavy-duty vehicle sector. So we felt we need to advertise for and promote the jobs that we recruit for. We need to say that these jobs are open to women. We felt it was important to talk about all the different possibilities that are out there. We're at SOLUTRANS, so we talk here about industrial vehicles, but we could be talking about lightweight vehicles. I repeat, the main aim was to advertise the different types of jobs. So we've put together videos that advertise the different tyre-based jobs. We put them out there on the internet to say what we do first and foremost. So once we presented the jobs to the training organisations, essentially the GARAC based in France, we hope that we'd then be able to recruit more people. But we needed, first of all, to find training organisations in the different regions in addition to France and say to them, look, the tyre business, this is what it's all about. We need new skills. We need to hire new staff. We've got a system. We've got 3 systems, in fact, where we can provide funding. And so we simply said, as Christophe said, we need to be able to work with our different specialised networks. They can provide us with the information on the type of training that we need to provide. Because if you open up a class in a training organisation, you've got Michelin that has opened up the CFM to provide training. And I always say the minimum number in a class needs to be 12 people, because we know that half of the people are likely to drop the course partway through. So if you've only got one network and one class for 12 people, it's not sufficient. At the end of the day, you're only going to have 6 people on average who will join the company. As we said, it's very hard to see this through to the end. And sometimes what's important is to open up more classes, and that gives you a guarantee that you'll have more staff further down the line. So this work is absolutely vital, isn't it? Because in the tyre sector, you now look to recruit before you hire. If you didn't do that, would you find it very difficult? Because people would have to be hired and then trained on the job. It might seem amazing to people who are looking at you if they come from a different profession, but that's how you have to function. Yes, we have to function that way because there's no longer any industrial training, any initial training. The only type of training that exists in schools is for mechanical engineering. There's no training on tyres apart from the training that certain manufacturers can provide. So gradually integrating young people has taken place over the last 10 years. And now what we need to do is not only reach out to older people who are partially qualified, we need to reach out to the younger population and train them on our jobs. Let me pass the floor over to Aurélie, because we're going to get to the heart of the matter. Aurélie, you currently are working for Azure Pneu. You're a truck tyre fitter. How did you discover this specific universe and this job? Did you benefit from training such as the one that Aurélie talked about, or what was your pathway, let's say? Hello, everybody. Well, I originally worked in TC4. I spent 11 years working in the TC4 sector. Then after that, I discovered the wonderful world of industrial vehicles. I struggled a great deal initially because nobody wanted to give me the job I've currently got. It took me 3 years to get somebody to agree. All of a sudden, somebody said, "Okay, Aurélie, we'll give you the opportunity." So I was asked to do a trial period for 6 months, and once I'd done the trial period, I was able to work on breakdown vehicles, on managing the vehicles that are part of a fleet. And then after that, I just moved up through the ranks. What did you like, initially speaking, in this sector? Well, it's important to like working on your own, to enjoy contact with the direct client. It's important to be independent. I like having a contact with people professionally, and there's no routine. Every day is different. Yeah, every day is different. That's what I love. Sometimes I work on a heavy-duty vehicle, then I work on a quarry vehicle or a farm tractor. Sometimes in one day you can change vehicles 8 or 9 times, and I love it. And do you remember what it was like the day you thought, "Oh, I'd like to do this job"? Can you remember how your managers reacted? What prevented them from saying, "Yes, you're absolutely right, we'll help you"? Well, I didn't say I wanted to go for this job. It's basically the sector. It's as if it was calling out to me. It's not the same thing. Joking apart, everybody around me was a bit hesitant because there weren't any women elsewhere. Then, okay, it's also that I don't necessarily look like a man. And a lot of people, no doubt, were wondering, a lot of men were wondering, will she manage to do the job? But as it turns out, I don't actually work like the guys, because otherwise I wouldn't manage, but I've adapted the way I work, and everything's fine. I've been doing this job for the last 11 years, so all's well and good. And you don't weigh 120 kilos, you haven't got massive muscles like Popeye, but I've got a brain. I've got a brain. Yeah, so it is possible to manage, definitely. So you're saying that for the moment you feel completely emancipated, you thoroughly enjoy your job. Yes, I do. And I have great fun on the social network saying, look at me, men are not the only people who can do the job I do. And also, first of all, I talk about the job so that people can learn about it, because people who just come across it all of a sudden, they never understand what the job is. So I explain, I say what it's about. And people shouldn't be scared of copying me. We've talked about wages very briefly. Now, you're on the social networks, you post different things, you tell stories. It's very enjoyable to read what you say on LinkedIn, for example. How do you see it? Is it a form of pleasure? Is it a duty to showcase the job that you do? What's your perception of things? Well, I just want to showcase it. Yeah, I want to show it up in a good light. I want people to see that my job isn't just a dirty job. Some people say, oh, it's a disgusting job. I say, no, absolutely not. I'm very happy, because when I go and help people, if I go out on a breakdown, people are happy to see me arrive. I serve a purpose. I provide a service. I provide a useful service. When during lockdown, for example, I was able to travel around, it's a blooming good job that we were there, because otherwise the trucks, they couldn't travel and fill up the stores. But nobody talked about us, and yet we were there doing our job. That's what I was going to say. Our members, throughout the pandemic, they were still very busy, and we provide a service. We provide a service to the general public. And what about you, Delphine? I think it's important to say that lots of networks remained open. All our networks remained open. They maybe weren't meeting many clients. Maybe some of the time they were working at a loss, but they were doing their jobs because their role is to serve the clients. And whether they go on 1 or 100 journeys in the day, they had to do them. Yes. Fundamentally, we work in the B2B sector. So as Aurélie said, the tractor needed to be able to go out on the road, lockdown or no lockdown. The heavy-duty vehicle needed to be able to deliver toilet roll from Franprix. It was essential for our members to be out there, to be out on the roads. And it illustrates very clearly that, yes, we have recruitment needs, maybe because we serve a purpose in society, and maybe other profiles will come forth because we're doing the advertising. Also, it's important to say that the job we do means we don't have to go to a gym. I don't need to sign up to a gym. I get plenty of exercise. It's a wonderful job. There were loads and loads of machines for fitting the tires for industrial vehicles. Okay, if the machine breaks down, it's a bit more problematic. Anybody from Volco here in the room? The machine, I've got a machine that is absolutely brand new, but it breaks down even so. Oh, we've even got the OEMs here. Christophe, just to speak in relation to what Aurélie was saying, can you tell me in a tangible way at point S what you do in order to attract, recruit new staff? And also, of course, what do you do in order to help them evolve during the course of their careers?
Well, we had started a few years back with the Chamber of Commerce, the different things that we've just said, and until 2019 we'd started things, open days in garages or summer jobs or some recruitment drives. Unfortunately, 2020 everything was on standby, but we need to get back on track by 2022, I think, because 2021 is a difficult year to get people to know these kinds of jobs. We're working with the different sectors to try and do other things than what we were able to do, which was just on a small scale, to promote this kind of jobs to the young people, because it's really, really tricky. Yeah, through your brand image, people don't know what this job is all about, and they have various preconceptions, especially in the industrial field. So you need to show how autonomous you can be, show how varied it is, how humane it is, what client interface you have. There are various clients you're dealing with per day. Of course, there are various obligations. You sometimes working at night, but there are definitely payoffs to that, and we're just as well paid as on the manufacturing side. Okay, but the problem with recruitment, it has to be said, it's not just down to you. I mean, there's competition, isn't there? And sometimes the working conditions, the hours, or the pay is different. So you have to face that competition. There's a lot of preconceived ideas, I think. Is that really a problem? Yeah, there is a problem on the different reputations we might have. We were used to a situation where we were all working in the same direction and everyone was working hand in hand, but it was skewed. And now we need to set things straight. We need to communicate properly with the different institutions to say that you can have a very varied job, you can be well paid, it's very diverse, and it's a very rewarding job. And we see that very often in our tourism workshops, where they learn other things that mechanics can do, not so much on tire assembly, but other sides to the job that they don't have in the manufacturers, where they're just doing a single job. And our network is quite well known. Point S. I mean, you were talking about the manufacturing networks, but there's also the other networks amongst themselves and our members. They steal each other's employees, and so salaries is an issue. So if you can't recruit, then you need to go and get somebody from your rival and get them to come and work for you. Look at the training. And we want to stop the on-the-spot training. We want to make sure that the sector is much more professional and professionally trained. So we've got training programs that are being implemented and have been for the last 50 years. So recruitment needs are complicated. It's difficult for us as an organization to find people who would like to apply. People often don't know what the job is all about, but they also don't necessarily want to move around. It's tricky. It's tricky for the training programs. It's tricky for us as well to find companies who are willing to employ new people. That's true, absolutely. And you have made a lot of effort. There is this network. It's great, but that doesn't solve everything, does it? Once you've opened up a class, a training class, you need students, of course, and you need to find them. You need to convince them to come and train. Yeah, and training organizations do a lot of the legwork for that. We, as a syndicate, to promote the sector, try and do that as well and have partnerships. We target young people or young recruits. It's not necessarily very young. It's more vocational training. I mean, it can be people who are up to 40 years old, I would say. So we are working together with the unemployment offices, but they can't control what's happening locally. So it's through training programs, training organizations. It's up to you to go and see locally what's going on. So that's why we've set up partnerships with the EPID, who helps with employment, and I'm working now with the Interministerial Refugee Council to set up a partnership called HOPE to integrate refugees. We're really trying to set up various different partnerships to increase our brand notoriety and help with recruitment. Christophe, you've talked about the importance of meeting these people here at trade fairs like this one. And of course, there haven't been any trade fairs over the last 2 years, but hopefully that's about to change now. Now, during these moments when you meet the young people, that's one thing, but do you play a role vis-à-vis the parents who may influence the choices of their children. Is that something that you take into account? Of course, on knowledge about the job, but also reassuring them and what the mobility needs are. And that's what we've tried to set up with the CFA from Le Mans, for instance, where we took into account the accommodation as well. That was very reassuring for the families. You don't want to send your child, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away to school for however many days per week or per month. You want to know where they're going to live, how they're going to feed themselves, etc. So it's a whole host of issues that you need to cover. It's not just the training itself. There's another question that we're going to deal with, which is fundamental, and that is how many women are applying in this field. Over the last year, we've tried to really focus on women who are interested in this sector. Fortunately, there aren't that many, but there are some. Now, you have agreed to do that, but do you agree that there aren't enough women? Absolutely. Absolutely. In my sector, there are 3 of us, because there's one recently joined us at Vulco. So that's great, 3. Yeah, but it's true. If you're not aware of the job, then you won't think to apply. Do you think that the messages that you are sharing on social network can attract or convince some women to pursue a career in this field? I think so, but it depends on the age. It's the parents you need to convince, and that's trickier. Are they on LinkedIn, parents? I don't know. But imagine if the child is 16 and they thinking about doing this job, then telling your parents you want to do that job is not always easy. Took me a long time. Okay, and what about the feedback that you have on the social network? Yeah, I get a lot of positive, but also negative feedback. Some people are thrilled to see a woman doing this job and who's not afraid to show herself working in this kind of job. But it also allows you to have a lot of contacts. What about the negative feedback? What kind of negative feedback do you get? Well, it's not a woman's job. But, I just laugh that off. I've been doing this for 21 years now. I've always worked in this environment, and I've heard that ever since day one. So I just think it's something that's here forever. But we're in the 21st century. I mean, there's no specifically male or female jobs anymore, is there? Delphine, what do you have to say about that? And your association, do you have any kind of vision of how things are becoming more attractive to females? I mean, what can you say about that? Well, in our field, we have 400,000 employees, 23% women. This trade fair doesn't see a lot of women. Automotive industry is a very male-dominated environment, even if, as you've just said already, it is accessible just as much to women as to men. Our organization is a representative organization, just like the CNPA and the FNA. Yesterday, I suggested a negotiation for gender equality, and the unions, who are progressive, do not have that vision. Women don't change their motor oil. People say that. We need to change people's mindsets. Recruitment is a first point. And then gender equality is another. Convincing parents, as we've already said, is a really big deal. I remember we've made videos to promote working with tires, and we didn't want to hide anything. It is sometimes a difficult job, when you're dealing with industrial vehicles or you're outside, it's raining, it's snowing, whatever, you've got to get out there. Whatever time of the day, there are sometimes very difficult situations. You just need to get on with it. And we showed that in our videos, and I remember the Vulco member presenting the video at the open day, and the parents were saying, no, 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 my child's not going to do that. And perhaps we were a little bit too candid. And that's why we're working with the NFA to work on new promotional videos. But yeah, we should promote it. The title of this conference is the Tyre Professions for the Future. We're at a crossroads now, I think. A lot is happening. Aurélie, the fact that there are electric vehicles, self-drive vehicles, are you worried about that? Will we still need tires in the future? They'll always need us, because a truck may be able to drive itself, but tires that don't burst or puncture or wear out, they don't exist, do they? So it is a job for the future. Absolutely. You know, we are never unemployed. As Macron said, you cross the road and you get a job. There's no unemployment. We need to recruit. We need to recruit. You know, we did not have to work part-time. And our members agree with us, I think. Agencies continued for industrial vehicles. And I don't know what's happening on all of the stands as far as innovation goes, but for the electric and hybrid, that's more for light commercial vehicles than for industrial vehicles. It's more about adapting competencies with accreditation for electric. It's more about professionalization. So even if Aurélie isn't worried, you are concerned about gender equality, aren't you? And the future of working with tires. The profession. Yeah, and my chairman is here. We'll always need tires on all vehicles. So it's perhaps more about professionalizing the job, for instance, the job of tire assembler. And then we can deal with the electric part and the hybrid part, which will come and be a part of that. Perhaps less on the industrial vehicle, on trucks. But as far as training goes and assembler goes, we have jobs to do. We work on health and safety before you join the company. So that's already something that happens. So that by age 50, you're not, you know, with aches and pains all over your body. Yeah, and by 2030, there'll be a huge renewal of employees in the automotive industry. You know, nearly half the population will be new. It's a real boom. These real boom years. And we also need to deal with the problem of recruitment right now. Otherwise, there'll be nobody left. Point S, Christophe, you were telling me that you have accredited your network for electric vehicles roughly 10 years ago. Absolutely. Electric accreditations is the first training program I set up in 2012 for this network. At the time, we were the first to do it directly on our points of sale. And today, when we see the car fleet and trucks here at this trade fair, hybrid has been around for a while now. New types of fuel are also coming out, and so there's still a lot of diversification to happen. Yes, we'll always need tires, but connectivity linked to tires we'll always need as well, and connectivity to the rest of the vehicle. So there's a lot of work to do, yeah. A good future, I would say. Thank you. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any comments or questions? Yeah, I have a question for Aurélie. Earlier, we were talking about digitalization of tires and in tires, and the manufacturers told us about the tools that they had to track tires and to have a much better vision of the wear and tear and the maintenance required. Of course, this digitalization requires training technicians or new tools. Just like cars always need tires to drive, we'll always need assemblers to assemble the tires or fit the tires on the roads. And what about you? Are you already using those tools? Are you using tablets? I know that Goodyears are using specific systems. How do you see the future which requires us to train to these new technologies? I think tablets are here already. That'll be a lot less paper. That would be great. A lot less paperwork, and it would be much more practical. So I don't use a tablet because I don't have one, but it would be a good thing. It would be much better. And of course, computers, yeah, for everything. But the tablet, that'll be great. We'll save a lot of time thanks to that. We're still on paper and pens. Yes. Digitalizing this will already attract new people, young people who are very comfortable with all of these new technologies. If the networks or the centers were all digitalized like this, then it would be much easier to do the work, and it could already attract new young people. Of course, and on a short-term level, we will have to go in that direction because manufacturers are putting in place more and more connectivity, sometimes locked in. So you'll have to equip the workshops with this connectivity. And it's worth reminding ourselves that it's tricky for our kind of business. There are independent or subsidiaries. I mean, there are new technologies or standards that sometimes take a while to trickle down the whole system and be deployed in the field. So I'm sure it will be something that gets to you as well, to your kind of job. Of course, it will. Another problem we have, and luckily we have partnerships with manufacturers who are helping us with this technological development, but the manufacturer itself sometimes doesn't keep us informed so that we can train people on the shop floor. I'm thinking of hydrogen, for instance, which is just beginning. It's quite a tricky subject. It's worth being informed and trained on this technology, which is a technology of the future. How can we prepare that technology? What are we going to need to do? Any other questions? Thank you, Romain. I have a few comments. This is all Aurélie's fault, because I noticed her on the social networks, and together we set up this column for women, and I meet more and more women in the field. Aurélie does two things. She promotes women's jobs in the field of tires, and I've met a lot of women here today who are more and more interested in working in the field of tires thanks to the promotion that she's done. And she is passionate, and that's something you can really sense. And I would love the guys to also take up their tablets and pass on their passion for their jobs. It's very, very important. Tires are a job for the future. Delphine was saying that, whatever the motorization, whatever the vehicle, we'll always need tires. But Aurélie shows that you can be passionate about that job, and that's what's missing. To recruit people, we need to share with people that there are jobs you can be passionate about in that field. Thank you very much for the job that you're doing, Christophe and Delphine, and thank you for the promotion that you give to our jobs. Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for having been a part of this roundtable. Thank you for being here and listening. I think we have now finished, and let's meet again tomorrow for the next roundtable, the Tyre Cost Center and how to control it. Damien Chalon will be introducing that roundtable at 10 o'clock. So have a great day. Thank you.